Hi and welcome to the 2011 edition of the Tour de France. We are back just like last year. My name is Dick Henderson and alongside me is our expert commentator Jim Jones. This year's edition start off with a road race in Vendée. The riders are going through the Passage du Gouy, along the coast and up and into Mont d'Alouette. After the yellow jersey is handed out in Mont d'Alouette, it's time for a short 23-kilometer time trial in Les Essarts. Then is stage 3. We are going to Redon, where the sprinters will get their chances. Stage 4 goes from Lorient to Mours-de-Bretagne. The stage includes a lot of tough hills and is probably best suited for punchers like Philippe Gilbert. Stage 5 to Cap Friel should be another day for the sprinters. Day 6 of the Tour de France is the longest of this year's edition, 226 kilometers up to Lisieux. Then the riders set off from Le Mans up to Châteauroux, where a green jersey contender most likely will win. The next stage can be summarized in one word, won by a climber. Then is the stage up to Saint-Flour, a real leg breaker, suited for riders like Sylvain Chavanel.
After rest day, the riders will set their noses towards the Pyrenees, and the day after, maybe a day for the breakaway to La Bourg. Stage 12 will be a hard day for the GC contenders. 211 kilometers with climbs like Tourmalet and Louis Ardeden. After this stage, the overall classification might be a bit more lucid. The next stage will go from Pau to Lourdes. It's a day for the breaker riders or maybe a poor placed GC contender, and they will have to climb the Col d'Aubisque. The next stage will be one of the toughest in the saddle, with 6 categorized climbs and a mountaintop finish. The day after, the remaining sprinters will battle it out in Montpellier.
After the rest day, the riders will set their noses towards Gap. It's the final week of racing and the stage is pretty hard. It goes slightly upwards throughout the day. Then the riders head into Italy in Pinarello with 5 categorized climbs in the Alps. The next day, the riders set off from Pinarello to Galbier. It's the king stage of this year's Tour de France and we are going to head up Col du Lautaret. Then it's time for the queen stage of this year's Tour de France. We head off from Modane, up Col du Telegraphe, Col du Galibier, and finally, as a mountaintop finish, Alpe d'Huez. Then it's time for the final battle between the GC contenders and the time trial specialist in Grenoble, 42.5 kilometer long time trial. On the last day of this year's Tour de France, the riders will set off from Créteil. On this stage, we will celebrate and honor the winner of the Tour de France. But when we enter the streets of Paris Champs-Élysées, the remaining sprinters will battle it out to win this prestigious stage. And on behalf of PCMNorway Production, we hope that you will enjoy this year's edition of the Tour de France. Arrivederci! Hi and welcome to PCMNorway Production's coverage of this year's Tour de France. In this program, we will go over the key stages, the key teams, and the key cyclists. My name is Dick Henderson, and alongside me is our expert commentator, Jim Jones. So, the first week of this year's Tour de France has no prologue. Instead, it's a team time trial on the second stage and a bunch of flat and most likely sprint stages. So, the first week, most likely sprint stages. Who do you think the key teams will be? Who will play the biggest role in the first week?
I think the sprinters team, of course, will be dominating the first week, especially HTC with Mark Cavendish and Garmin Cervelo with both Tyler Farrar and Torrico.
Yeah, and there we got a little bit of issue after the tragic event in Giro d'Italia where Wouter Weiland unfortunately lost his life on the bike.
Yeah.
Tyler Farrar was a very good friend of Wouter Weiland. After the crash, I was going to say retired, but he dropped off from the Giro d'Italia. And after that accident, he hasn't been himself.
No, he's down mentally, so he's not going to. I don't think he'll be in his best shape this year's tour because of that accident. So they say that he's going to be the leading sprinter, but I think that might, after a few stages, they'll see that Torrico is going to be the man to put their money on.
Yeah, for us Norwegians wouldn't be bad, but Then again, unfortunately for Tyler Farrar, it's going to be a most likely tough Tour de France this year for him. So, if Tyler Farrar is out of the talk about the green jersey maybe, you got Mark Cavendish, he won it last year. And then you got other sprinters like Benati, Admiral Bosenhagen, all those outsiders for the green jersey. We know that Admiral Bosenhagen can climb better than most of the other sprinters, but then Benati, he's not too bad either.
No, he's pretty good in mountains, and also Husha, but I don't think he's going to be participating in the fight for the green jersey this year. But I like the new feature with they get the points in the middle of the stage, and it's 25 points.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I'm excited about how they're going to ride, like the teams, how they're going to set up before that intermediate sprint.
Yeah, because it's a new element this year with the breakaways and everything like that. You can actually go in a breakaway in every stage, take an intermediate sprint, and still be in the running for the green jersey.
Yeah. So it's more like a point jersey now than a green jersey.
Yeah.
It's still green though.
Yeah, it's still green. So that was the first week. A lot of sprinter stages most likely, and of course some television breakaways. That brings us to the second week of racing. Nothing much spectacular like the third week, but we still have some key stages that the GC contenders can try each other out on. And the first one is the 12th stage. You can see the profile on the screen right now. So the stage to Les Ardennes has two parts. The first part is quite flat, building a little bit up towards the second part. And on the second part you got three categorized climbs. It goes up and down and up and down, and then a mountaintop finish. So Jim, who do you think will play the biggest role on this stage?
Well, it depends on who's got the yellow jersey, but of course the GC contenders will do well on this stage. The Schleck brothers,
yeah.
Maybe Ivan Basso, Denis Menchov, some other Spaniards,
yeah.
And of course Alberto Contador and Cadel Evans.
Cadel Evans, yeah. Okay, Alberto Contador, hard not to mention his name nowadays. He was practically dominating in the Giro d'Italia. So he has already ridden the Giro d'Italia. Do you think that can affect his performance in the Tour de France?
Yeah, perhaps, but it's about the Contador.
Yeah, it's about the Contador. So Andy Schleck, he didn't ride the Giro d'Italia. He has had like a little build-up towards the Tour de France. He rode the Tour of California. He is now in the Tour de Suisse. So, okay, compared to Contador, what is the best build-up for a cyclist towards a big race like Tour de France?
Of course, the way Andy Schleck is doing it, it's the best way. But if you are that strong as Contador, yeah, I guess you can do either way.
Yeah. Okay, so there we have it. The 12th stage, a stage for the GC contenders, and most likely a spectacular stage. So that brings us to the 14th stage of the second week of racing. So you just saw the profile for the 14th stage to Plateau de Beige. It's 168.5 km of racing, and it's 6 categorized climbs. It goes up and down all day long. And Jim, a natural question for you. How do you think this stage will develop as they go?
Well, it's totally a day for a climber. Maybe a day for the rider who wants to win the mountain.
Yeah, King of the Mountain jersey. Yeah, it's plenty of opportunities and points to collect.
Yeah, there will definitely be a breakaway, and then the favorite teams will chase them all day. And seeing as it is, I think we'll see some attack for the yellow jersey.
Hopefully for us that's going to commentate, some attacks will be nice. Let's order that from the menu. So that actually concludes the second week of racing. If you are interested in GC classification, of course it will be some breakaway stages as we go, and it's now time for the third week. So that is the profile of the 16th stage to Gap. It's the first stage after the final rest day. So Jim, how will this stage develop?
This will definitely be a day for the breakaway riders. Or perhaps maybe a sprinter can survive that final climb and go for a sprint victory down in Gap.
Yeah, that will actually be a spectacular performance, don't you think? So the key stages in the final week, we got a few of them. The first is the 18th stage. It goes to Galibier, a well-known Tour de France mountain. It's over 200 kilometer long stage. We are going to be over 2 out of categorized climbs and then up to Galibier. How will this stage develop?
Well, this stage will be a real leg breaker, and it's definitely a stage for the GC contenders. Those who are 2, maybe 3 minutes behind the yellow jersey leader will have to attack on this stage to get some time.
Yeah, so according to the stage profile, it's a long stage, many hard mountains. Will this be the toughest stage of this year's tour?
Most likely. It depends on the peloton, actually.
Okay, so maybe if, let's say, Dennis Mencho is 2 minutes 30 seconds behind Contador, let's just say that's the scenario. He puts all his team up in the front, riding real hard all day, then it's the toughest stage?
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings us to the 19th stage, and it's a 109.5 kilometer long stage, and it's a mountaintop finish up to Alpe d'Huez. It's a real prestigious mountain in this year's edition, and Iba Mayo won up there, made himself very popular to the Spanish people. Do you think Alberto Contador can gain the same popularity if he wins that stage?
Yeah, if he wins that stage, but I think that he will be in the yellow jersey, and
okay.
I think there will be so many attacks up to Alpe d'Huez. So I don't think the yellow jersey leader will be the winner of this stage. Maybe one of the GC contenders that's 6th, 7th place.
Okay.
There will be many attacks up to Alpe d'Huez.
So that actually concludes all of the mountain stages for this year's edition. The last real stage for the GC contenders is the 20th stage in Grenoble. It's 42.5 kilometer long and it's a time trial. It's the same course that is used in Dauphiné this year, and maybe Contador will have some trouble here if he's in the yellow jersey.
Well, it depends who's behind him. Just like the last year's tour, he was struggling on the last time trial, and Andy Schleck was only 20-30 seconds behind.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think Contador will suffer on this stage if he's the man in the yellow jersey. But if Andy Schleck is in the yellow jersey, he will definitely get some really hard attacks from behind.
Let's hope so, for the entertainment's sake. That brings us to the last stage, and the last stage is from Créteil to Champs-Élysées. It's also a very short stage, but it's more of a let's have fun, drink some champagne type of stage. So the last sprinters remaining in the peloton will battle it out on the streets of Paris, and all the jerseys will be handed out. So my last question to you, who do you think will win the green jersey and who do you think will win the yellow jersey? Right on the spot.
The yellow jersey, if Contador is competing and that is not too worn out after the Giro d'Italia, he will win. If not, I think Andy Schleck. The green jersey, I think maybe this will be Mark Cavendish this year, or perhaps Volkswagen.
Okay, so just for discussion's sake, I said that Mark Cavendish won it last year. I meant Pataki, my bad. So my guess will be just as the same as you had, Jim. Contador for the yellow, and let's say Cavendish for the green. He's in his own league, just like Contador. So that was our studio time here from PCMNorway Productions. I have been Dick Henderson. Alongside me was our expert commentator, Jim Jones. So stay tuned for the race.